we could use this to effect a kind of a basic and rather ugly time stretch. I'm just going to check time. 7 minutes. Ooh, cutting it fine, but we'll try. So if I could use a line object. Let's put a line object in. And we could get line object to specify, again we have inlets here which give us selection start and selection end. So if I were to send the line object to the selection start and give it a value, so we'll say read from 0 to 6 seconds, actually 7 seconds over, I don't know, 7 seconds for the time being. We can make that slower later on. So now you'll notice that the selection start reads to that point, and then interestingly, once it gets to the point at which the selection end is, it kind of obliterates it and keeps drawing. I'm going to make my selection remain the same length throughout the entire. I'm just going to move this down as it reads through that waveform. So and to do that, I'm going to say give it a plus of, I don't know, we'll make it 100 milliseconds. Whoops, as you will see in a minute. So if I connect that to the outlet of line and then into the selection end, hopefully you'll be able to see what's happening. If I click on 0 to 7000 again, then you will see that we have a selection of a consistent length that travels through the waveform, because we've got the selection start on the left hand side with, as line counts up, a selection end which is 100 milliseconds ahead of that, because we've added 100 milliseconds to whatever we're getting from line, all the way through the file. So you get this consistent length of loop length, if you like. But in fact we could kind of think of this as a grain length, and what we'll be doing is a kind of granular time stretch, because if I slow this down, the speed at which line is reading through the file, if I make that maybe 3 times as long, so we'll move from 0 to 7 seconds over 21 seconds and start playing this back, you will hear that we are moving through the file that much slower and effecting a rather grainy time stretch. And if I reduce the length of the loop fragment by changing the length of the size of the selection, so if I make this say 50 milliseconds, then obviously the selection end is only going to be 50 milliseconds ahead of the selection start, and so our loop length is going to be correspondingly shorter. If I get it to happen, then we have a much shorter grain, and I can make it shorter still. And we have a more characteristic granular time stretch. It's ugly at the moment because we have glitches and clicks in there, but it kind of works. So if you understand the principle of that, there could be ways in which you could use that. Similarly, you may not even need to use the line object to move through the file in that way. You could simply connect a float box to there, and then to the addition box that says how big the grain is going to be, and move through it manually. You get that kind of cymbally sound, but a very sort of grainy quality to that. And a time freeze as well. And you could kind of move back before you get there. So you could get some interesting sounds from doing that. And if you wanted to, further to that, and going back to what we started with, you could record the results of your fiddlings in this respect. So what you could do is add well actually we've got a record object there already. So instead of coming out of a microphone input, or the input to Max MSP, we'll get rid of that and connect it to the groove object. And what we'll do, because we're already using my sound for the playback, we will make a new buffer called my sound 3 that will accommodate our new material. So buffer this time, buffer my sound 3. And this time we'll make this one 30 seconds in length, because I don't know how long I want to record for. And also we'll make it 2 channels. Oop. For some reason we seem to have stopped, I'm not quite sure why. There we go. So I can start recording, which it should do, yeah. And then I can move through the file using and obviously we can change the length of that as well, so we can make that slightly longer. So you get the idea, you can make some quite interesting stuff from that, and then we turn off the record and we have our file which we can now play back in turn. So I will stop this for the moment. Oops, stop it, there we go. And I could again use a groove object to refer to my sound 3, oops, with 2 outlets, and we'll take this slot along with a signal object to tell it to play back at 1 speed, and notice I can put in an argument to SIG to say that is how fast I want it to play back all the time, so this will always be sending a value of 1 out. And then I can connect that to an easy DAC. And now it's reading back through this, so it's basically recording back what we've just, or playing back just what we've just done. So okay, this is all a bit messy, but hopefully you've managed to follow through what I've been talking about. And you can imagine that, you know, you could do some quite interesting kind of glitchy stuff with all of that.